Up, a very simple title, implies a complex meaning. It's talking about the definition of adventure and life. Simply, you can say that this film is talking about one word: adventure. At the beginning, the film defines adventure as going to some exotic and weird places and discovering something unknown, like what Charles Mons in the TV show did.
Adventure is out there!
He found some new species in a place called Paradise Falls, as well as brought some animal bones back. The adventure became the dream of young Carl Fredrickson and Ellie. Even when Ellie was dead, Carl persisted in going to Paradise Falls in order to exit from the modern and commercialized world that has little humanity towards the elderly. Therefore, he used thousands of balloons to lift up his house and started his trip to South America. Unintentionally, he met a boy called Russell, who wanted to assist him for the sake of getting a badge and becoming a senior wilderness explorer. Russell accidentally got onto the porch of Carl's house, so Russell and Carl traveled together to South America and began the adventure. However, when they finished the adventure, they found that the real adventure in life is the relationship with other people. At the beginning, the two main characters seemed to be taking the advantages of each other. Carl wanted Russell to support him wherever possible in order to get to Paradise Falls as soon as possible.
Now, we're gonna walk to the falls quickly and quietly with no rap music or flash dancing.
But Russell wanted Carl to offer him a chance for assisting the elderly to get the badge. Russell was very energetic and curious. He talked continuously and Carl was annoyed by him. Therefore, Carl actually did not like Russell. He just had no choices that he must take care of him in the wilds of South America. However, Russell just constantly produced many troubles that obstruct the arrival to Paradise Falls. For example, Russell found a giant bird called Calvin and a talking dog called Doug. He wanted to travel with them. Nevertheless, Carl refused that since he thought they were so disturbing. Calvin swallowed Carl's crutch, and Doug didn't want to leave Calvin. Therefore, Carl had a deep aversion to these two animals and tried his best to shy away from them.
I am nobody's master, got it? I don't want you here and I don't want you here. I'm stuck with you.
However, Russell loved the two animals. He fed Calvin with chocolate and he was amazed at Doug's ability to talk. Soon, Carl and Russell became more intimate after they met Charles Mons, who was Carl's idol. They discovered that Mons were designed to catch Calvin. Therefore, they escaped from Mons' dirigible. At that time of getting away from Mons, Carl, Russell, and Doug cooperated together. They were not thinking about their own need, but for the whole team. This was the first time that the four characters were so united. They seemed to be kind of a family relationship. Later on, Calvin was unwittingly caught by Mons, but Carl only concentrated in extinguishing the fire on his house and did not save Calvin. Conceivably, Calvin was took away by Mons, and Carl complains to Doug that if he didn't show up, those snack and dreadful things would not happen.
And if you hadn't have shown up, none of this would have happened. Bad dog! Bad dog!
Also, he didn't apologize to Russell for not rescuing Calvin. He only said,
"This is none of my concern. I didn't ask for any of this."
Therefore, Russell was very disappointed. He thought that Carl would protect his bird, but he didn't. So he left Carl and went to save Calvin alone. At the same time, the relationship between Carl and Russell was broken since they found that they have conflicting targets. Carl wanted to save his house and Russell wanted to save the bird. Hence, they busted up their friendship. After that, Carl opened the adventure book and found many beautiful photos about his life with Ellie. He gradually understood that the meaning of adventure in Ellie's point of view had changed. At first, both of them had a target: having an adventure in Paradise Falls. However, Ellie found out that something was more important than going to Paradise Falls. It was the relationship with Carl. As they got married, they started a new livelihood. They decorated their house together, they read books together, they had picnic together, they even worked together. Therefore, Ellie was contented in those relationships and didn't persevere in going to Paradise Falls anymore. The love or the sexual relationship between Carl and Ellie was already a kind of adventure, because love is a very complex concept. It includes patience, kindness, tolerance, trust, hope, respect, and so on. Therefore, a couple can always discover some new things and fascinating creatures between them. Carl finally realized that the true adventure was not exploring new places, but establishing a good relationship with other people and even animals, like what he did with Ellie. They both loved each other and wanted to go to Paradise Falls. For this reason, they made some agreement or some promise with each other. They crossed their hearts and raised money to go to Paradise Falls. Ellie enjoyed doing this stuff with Carl, and she ultimately didn't think that going to South America was important anymore, since she already had a wonderful and brilliant life with Carl. Thus, she wrote this sentence to Carl at the last page of the adventure book. Thanks for the adventure, now go have a new one. The adventure of Ellie and Carl was finished when she died. Carl finally knew that actually he didn't need to go to Paradise Falls in his remaining life. He understood why Russell hated him, since he did not cherish the relationship between he and Russell and that between Russell and Kevin. Therefore, he quickly steered his horse again to save Russell and Kevin. After several fighting with monks, they finally succeeded and got the spirit of adventure. Carl finally repaired their friendship. Russell, Carl, and Doug became a family, and they had a good life. Therefore, you can see that a relationship is the connection between people and animals. The crucial thing is that we should try our best to maintain a long-term relationship with different people, with our family and with our friends. The process of establishing a relationship with people is something very difficult to achieve for Carl. When he first met Ellie, he even couldn't talk. He could just nod or shake his head to express his feeling. To sum up, the term relationship fulfills all the definition of adventure. First, it consists of new and unknown creatures. For example, when Carl first talked to Russell, he actually didn't know what kind of person he was or what he was interested in. There were lots of things waiting for him to discover. Secondly, it's time-consuming. A good relationship requires a bunch of time to be built up. Carl was impossible to become a companion of Russell by talking to him for a few times. The reason why they were friends is because they spent many time with each other. For example, they went to Paradise Falls together, they fought with monsters together, they saved Calvin together. Thirdly, it includes many challenges and difficulties. The relationship between Carl and Russell didn't always run very smooth. There were many potential situations that made their relationship become vulnerable, especially the issues with the two animals.